Hey everybody, welcome out to the Gaming Book Club for the month of July 2018. I am your host, UF Gizmo, joined as ever by Massive Dash Chris Mangeli.
Hello everyone.
And Peter J. Morris.
In the flesh.
Well, not in the flesh, in the virtual
virtual
realm.
Flesh, yes.
The virtual flesh.
Yes.
And we're back after another month. The last month we did Jade Empire, this month we've done Recore Definitive Edition.
Mm-hmm.
You can't play Recore normally, I guess. Unless you play offline, maybe?
But why would you want to do that in the first place?
Why not? Because the Xbox One is better offline. Fact. So we're going to try and be a little bit more concise like we were last time. We were quite concise last time, but we were in person, so it's a little bit easier. So, Peter James Morris, what is your first impressions of Recore?
Oh gosh, this is going back. I played a lot of this actually at the very start of July. My first impressions, I'll go with what I thought was generally quite good. So I enjoyed the traversal. I thought the traversal mechanics were really cool. I thought the overall sort of world they created looked very interesting. And then I was like, okay, what's the story? What's actually going on? They're not really giving me a lot of information. That was my general first impressions.
Nice. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, sort of similar. Like when I started the game, pretty much similar to Pete. Played most of it at the start of the month. Yeah, really liked the character Jill, and like her companion characters and that, and the world seemed quite good, and the platforming elements and the whole the dungeon stuff. Did get a little bit sort of like tedious. Like every level world is just sand. For like 16 hours of just looking at sand is a bit boring.
The sand is coarse and does get everywhere. Well, my first impression initially was quite impressive. It's quite nice to look at. The soundtrack's quite nice. The controls initially are quite nice. Characters are quite interesting. And I think to bleed into point 2, which is our worst point of the game, I think the problem I have with what I've played of Recore is that what you see at the beginning is basically what you see throughout the game, just with some different colours and some slightly different enemies, really. I'm sure you guys have done the definitive stuff, so you'll be able to tell me different, to be honest. But my main concern with the game is it's kind of the same thing all the way through, and it's perhaps a little bit too long as well. But what do you guys think?
Chris, you can go first.
Yeah, I sort of agree with the length. Like I said, I've according to the stats on the Xbox, I've played it for 16 hours almost, and it feels like it should be like an 8-hour sort of game. Really, it's one of those sort of titles when you compare it to what else is out there, and like near the end of the game, it goes totally like Wind Waker style. It's like, oh, you're near the end, or you've got to go get all these extra orbs, which they did change in the definitive edition to make it slightly easier. It's just like you just repeat the stuff over and over again, and the main issue I had, and I believe Pete had the same issue, is bugs and that in the game, especially at the end. Like I've basically finished the game. You go, 16 hours. You've not finished it. You've got 750 out of the now 12,000 game scores. Like, why have you not finished the game? It's due to a game-breaking bug for me personally at the end of the game. Which has really soured my experience with the title.
Cool. So I'll go for. I actually finished the game for the first time on this game. Little book club. I actually finished it. There is lots of good points I'll explain later, but the bad points are similar to Chris's. Actually, there was the last bit of the section of the game is called the Tower of Eden, and you can tell in the original game they tried to make it a bit longer, give it 5 chapters, 5 floors. It shouldn't have been 5, it should have been 3 at best, I think would have been quite nice. But these floors, especially the 3rd floor, has about several game-breaking bugs which either don't allow negative effects. You have status elements that can affect your player, whether it's slow down, whether it's it's like a static ability. But there's certain bugs that don't remove that element, and in a platforming game which doesn't, you need to have those elements removed so you can jump, sort of breaks it just a little bit. And I've had one or two which I know Chris also encountered, where the enemies wouldn't spawn in, so you couldn't actually get past the next section. That definitely frustrated me greatly, but I thought, fuck it. I'm going to go on. I hadn't done the definitive stuff at that point in time, and so I went on to the definitive section of it to level my character up and to, of course, see what was going on in the game and whether or not I kind of come back to it at a later date. And generally, I'm really glad I did. I think the definitive sections of the game, going into the stuff afterwards, is probably some of the better parts of the game. The other bit of negativity I would say about the game is the overarching story. I felt like its narrative points or nodes weren't very well told. The only other human you'll meet in the game literally is like a cardboard cutout of a human character. Like, hey, I'm this guy. You're going to care for me at some point in this game. You do not care for him at all. Not in the slightest.
Yeah. Well, I think you're meant to care for him, but
yeah.
But because you only see him for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, it seems. You don't
it
really.
Is.
And the story stuff, like, you can kind of grasp what the story is, but I've played it, like I said, for like that amount of time, and it's not really there, and most of it's in like audio logs and other sort of things you pick up in the world than actual
storytelling,
in-game storytelling.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel, because it's from most of the guys that made Metroid Prime, as far as I'm aware, you can definitely feel like the Metroid elements, like going back to stuff and getting new like power-ups. So I now got the red beam, so I can now open this door. You can feel those things, and some of this, you can definitely feel in Kenji Inafuna's stuff on it as well, because obviously he was like the director of the title.
Yeah, it's just I felt in Metroid Prime, okay, they tell story a lot through the environment, and it's done really well, and the scanning mechanics, the little story bits there are actually quite interesting. In this, the world, as Dave said, felt a little bit bland, and it only gets more exciting in the definitive edition when it comes to how it looks, but it doesn't tell the story through the environment very well, and it doesn't tell the story of what are the Recore bots really. You know, like, the most exciting thing I wanted to know is how the fuck did they make this really interesting AI in these characters, and it's never ever explained.
Yeah,
so,
it's clearly got the Metroid influence. Like it plays like Metroid in the the lock on and the beams and stuff, but it definitely doesn't have the writer of Metroid for sure. So you guys I think you finished it, right, Pete?
Yes, I did indeed. Yeah.
And Chris got up to a game-breaking bug right at the end.
Basically finished it. I've got like half an hour's worth of game to play, but due to the bit I'm in like a square box. The first lot of enemies spawn, I can beat them, and then the next lot doesn't spawn. But you can't move within the box due to like the electric, walls around the box. You can't move backwards and forwards, and I can't seem to be able to spawn out of the box either. I've had it work once. And I managed to get to like the last enemy in the box, which I died on. So it's like I've tried like 30 times trying to load it and it's only actually. Like the enemies only spawn properly once. There's a few other times I've like fell through the world and stuff during the actual walking around of the world. It just felt like it was sort of rushed, which we now know it might have been, because the original concept art had the new companion tank was in the concept art, who wasn't in the first release of the game, and then was added in the definitive edition. And great.
More than that, there's actually some achievement art that has all of them that was in the final game.
Yeah,
true story. So they definitely meant for it to be in the game.
Yeah, the tank character is actually fairly useful due to you can like ride on top of them, and so you can get through like the map instead of walking quite quicker. And some of their stuff is interesting, but it doesn't really go into the main story. It just makes some of it might slightly easier, like to get the orbs, because you need to get these orbs to progress, especially at the end where it goes, like I said, all Wind Waker, because you had like 20 orbs, and now you need like 30 of them. It's like, I've got to go get these 10 more. And in the original version, I think you had to go get like 45 of them, and you would have only had 20. And you're like, wait, I've now got to suddenly go get all these 25 orbs, and there's there's no story context really in between those 20 and those 25. So it definitely improved it with this version, and obviously it was X enhanced as well with the definitive version. It sort of launched like a month before the X, but that was like one of the big things when they launched it. It was Gamescom last year, so it was like a year ago now, and that was like when they were talking about the X. That was one of the big things about it.
So, I mean, that's all the negative stuff. Shall we talk about some more positive elements of the game?
Yeah, so, I mean, my main positive for me is the platforming. The platforming is really good. It feels good to traverse, like the jumping, the gliding. just the sort of the weird puzzle sections that I played anyway, where you have to go up and down the things, you have to get the switch bots and stuff. I found very interesting and very fun.
Yeah.
I think the combat, as simple as it is pretty fun. It's pretty satisfying to do the whole pulling the orb out thing, the sort of the weird like fishing mini game.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. And yeah, like I said, the main character and the core bots, as they're called, are very good, very interesting. And I like the upgradable element of them as well. I mean, it's a bit overwhelming because it just kind of chucks shit at you, especially at the beginning. Like, you just sort of pick up shit and you're like, I have no context for this shit. But
yeah.
I think the more you play it, the better it gets. But I think, yeah, overall, I think the best thing about the game is the potential, which is unfortunately not really what you want for a exclusive title to hang your hat on. But I think the potential for Recore was very high.
It's a shame that it was, because I've seen reviews of it when it first came out, because at the time I did have an Xbox One as well. Like, I think like Metro gave it like a 5, and like it was like reviews like that, and it was like, I don't think it sold particularly well. So the potential, like you said, is there, especially for a sequel. You could definitely see it being like the Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed 2 sort of jump, but it's never going to get one, which is a real shame.
I kind of compare it to Knack, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because
I can definitely feel
okay.
I definitely see the comparisons there.
And Knack 2 did get a sequel, which was a lot better, but still no one really cared. But like that's kind of the way I look at it. Like, Knack was an okay game, had a lot of positives, a lot of negatives as well. But yeah, what was your sort of highlights, Pete?
So for me, the biggest highlight, legitimately, is the Definitive Edition section. So after getting stuck on the Tower of Eden, because of course I was frustrated, I decided, fuck it, let's go to the Definitive section, let's get the tank enemy, the tank little Recore bot, and do that whole area. And it is by far the best part of the entire game. Legitimately, the platforming's better. They have unique special weapons as well. So for the rest of the game, you just have this charge-up shot and your regular shot. And on the definitive section, it gives you the ability to get like a multi-shot lock-on and a lob shot, and the entire dungeons are based around these particular weapons, and they're quite useful, especially the lock-on shot later on for the Tower of Eden. There's more narrative there, the environment's more varied. I'd almost say, like, if you're going to play it, then go to the definitive section, appreciate that actually is probably the best part of the game, and then if you want to complete it, trudge through the Tower of Eden. The Tower of Eden, at the start, I was actually like, oh, this is really quite interesting. It's different atmosphere, different environment. But yeah, it's a weird one. The Tower of Eden is kind of some of the best parts of the game and some of the worst. But overall, yeah, Definitive Edition is great. I love the idea of multiple colours, changing colour mechanics. It's something I'm always a big fan of. Wink, wink. But yeah, I thought...
joke only I'm going to get Pete. So.
Yeah, exactly.
He really likes you.
Yes. Massive fan of Hugh,
Shout out to Henry Hall.
But yeah, I think that's the best part of the game. Like, the definitive section literally is... It sounds weird, but yeah, it's just that's the bit you want to play. You want to kind of get in for the basic stuff, then go straight get the tank enemy, who is the most fun, I feel, to play with. You can run around on him. I mean, yeah, all the extra little story elements. The difficulty, of course, goes up a notch in that area as well. So I thought the rest of the game was a bit easy. Generally, this is a bit more interesting, and the boss fights, or the mini bosses you'll encounter in that defensive section, are again more interesting than the Tower of Eden sort of arenas they present themselves with. So yeah, I'd probably say that's really what I thought was great about the game, which is not actually the main game, it is just the definitive edition of the game.
Yeah, it was like the DLC. That I didn't actually play much on. I got to the bit where you get to a bit through the main story, and then Violet is like a little companion robot, talks to you and goes, oh, you can now do this. So I went and did that, I went and got my tank, went and did like the first bits of racing, and then it gets to a bit in the new sort of...
the desert area,
yeah, the new desert. Well, they're all pretty much desert. I think it's got some greenery, which the other ones are. And it says something about going to fight some boss, and he's like level 30, and I'm like, and it's like miles ahead of the story. So you clearly got to come back to it, but I've not gone back to it. And like I said, I can't seem to teleport out of where I'm to in the game, so unless I can find an old save, or it does work that one time, I can't even go to what Pete's talking about, which is like really annoying.
What I did manage is I died so many times at one point in the Tower of Eden that it legitimately spawned me back at the start of that entire dungeon wave. That might be what you have to do.
Yeah, maybe.
But would you, if you want to ever go back to it, that seems like the alternative, which I know is a fun way to get back.
So I suppose the question is for me and Chris: will you attempt to finish it again, Chris?
Most probably not. It's a weird. I think a lot of people's dropped off on it because achievements and like PlayStation trophies have like a percentage thing, and like hardly anyone even got to like Eden of Tower. I think it's like 10% of people that have played this game is got it. And I was like, I can kind of understand why so many haven't finished it.
Yeah,
and it's a weird one. Due to how much I've played and how close I am to an end, it's like a game like I feel like I finished it, but not finished it, sort of thing. Like we talk about other games we've played on this thing, like Yakuza. I can go, yep, I'm nowhere near finished that. I've played like 2 chapters of this game thing, but like this is like, yeah, I feel like I sort of close enough. It's like it'd be like watching like Game of Thrones, like a season, and watching 8 of the 9 episodes and stuff. Things like, yeah, I've watched that season, but you've not quite watched it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. I kind of, I mean, I probably won't, to be honest. Like I've played I like what I've played, but it wasn't particularly engaging.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like to really make me want to sit through the grind. I think that's my biggest issue, as I put in the worst bits, is the grindiness of the sort of go here, do this sort of thing, go here for no reason, do this sort of thing without real story context is kind of like not enticing. And to be honest, the combat's fun, but it's not fun for very long. So by the end, by the 6 or 7 hours I'd played, I was like, right, I've kind of figured out everything I want to know. You know what I mean? Like there's a few different colours, but I'm like, cool, that's kind of all I want to know. So
yeah,
I have it on disc. So at some point I'll probably sit there and finish it, just because I drift in and out of games and consoles a lot. So who knows? So I suppose that leaves us with our overall verdict before we get to the grading, of course, which is the best part of the show. But the overall verdict, Peter James.
Okay, so I mean, like, as a kind of a closing paragraph, this is literally what I wrote after finishing the game, 100%. I thought some addictive qualities, some great movement, some interesting ideas, some solid combat elements, especially with the definitive edition parts, that I feel isn't flushed out enough, a rubbish story, and rushed end section. That was legitimately what I put when I finished it.
Nice, Chris. What about you?
Yeah, I got to agree quite a bit. Really, I feel this seems like a launch, like you said with the map thing. It feels a bit like a launch title. I know it wasn't. It came in like, I think, when did it come out? 2016, I want to say, something like that.
I want to say 15, but 16 sounds
it does.
possible.
It did feel like this is a launch title. This just shows like what the Xbox One can do, and it was like rushed out the door to like have something. Yeah, it was like, oh, right, we need a game on the console. Right, get Recore out, guys, and it does feel like that, and which is like, if they had more time in the oven, it could have been so much better.
It was the end of September 2016. Sorry, I thought I'd let you know the date of.
Mighty Number 9 probably didn't help, because Mighty Number 9 was so poorly received. Yeah, that I think they kind of needed to get another game out before they could get any funding for anything else.
Yeah,
that's probably half the battle as well, to be honest. As for me overall, I thought it was pretty good. I think the 5s and 6s that it got were pretty fair. The definitive edition stuff looks like it helps. It looks like it runs a bit better than it did the first time I played it as well. But
it looks like I said, it looks pretty. The X enhancement, I believe, is only HDR, which is actually like quite a big deal, and obviously the better colours and that, and it does look really good, and the performance might be slightly better because of the more power, but I don't think that's one of the X enhanced things. But yeah.
So yeah, I mean, now we'll get to the big part of the show. It's been quite a short show this week because there's not a lot you can say about Recore, to be honest, without being kind of harsh. It's kind of an average game, but not in a bad way. It's just really average. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not as expressive as say Metroid or even Yakuza. It's just not an interesting game, really. Sadly, so.
Who picked this game?
Well, it was me. I was just trying to keep the cost down, guys. That's what I was trying to do.
That's actually one of the good things, though. It is on, because obviously
Game Pass,
it's an Xbox One exclusive, and it's on Game Pass. So you can play
Game Pass is the reason, I think. And we've got to remember as well, when it came out, it was not a full price game. I think it was £30 over here. So like $40. So I think for that you can kind of
Yeah,
You can excuse
for
it. a bit.
£7 for a month of Game Pass of other titles, it is mostly worth a go.
Oh, 100%.
And like I
100%.
said, if you're looking for X enhanced games and stuff as well, it's it's one of a few as well. So
So, for our grading, Peter, if you can remember your grading.
Oh Jesus! Which is basically what everyone's had to come up with. Okay, so it's 150 years crow sleep out of 200 years crow sleep, which you don't realise is how long you're asleep for in the game. I just literally had to read a review of the plot. Also, did you know that there was a thing called the Dust Devil Plague, which wiped out Earth?
So spoilers there, Pete.
Oh well, I didn't know about this. Literally, I played the whole game and didn't know what the hell killed off humanity. So yeah, that's my review.
It's talked about in some audio logs and stuff on the game, but it is like you wouldn't know that if you didn't pick them up. For instance, it's one of those weird things.
So a key story element that was sort of left out of the main game.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what's your grading?
I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Basically, bog average.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a knack out of 10.
Oh.
Because it's the Xbox knack. It's kind of average. It's okay. It's kind of pretty. But
Yeah.
it's kind of not exciting in any way.
No.
So, that sums up Recore pretty well.
Yeah.
As for the next game,
Yes.
which will be Peter James's game.
It is. So it's going to be The Lost Child on Switch.
What?
The Lost Child.
Yeah.
Which is on Switch, PS Vita, and PS4, which is what I read about it, like a dungeon crawler mixed with Persona elements and Pokemon elements. So I'm hoping it's decent.
It's basically every game I reviewed for Nintendo. So if you go on my Nintendo, my name on Nintendo, and read like 6 reviews in a row, you'll find that was the kind of game that I used to get saddled with on the Vita. So
you get saddled with again, Dave.
I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I mean, we got Pete's month, we've got Chris's month after that, which is in September, and then we're gonna start doing themed months. So
Yes.
I'm gonna figure that out a bit more in detail.
Yeah,
for
sure.
the podcast. It will probably.
So
be
you're going to
indie
give
games.
us give us a theme, like Chris. Your theme is.
I haven't decided whether to
first-person
do
shooters.
individual
I know.
themes or I'm gonna do a blanket theme. It might be individual themes because that might be more interesting, but. We will see. First of all, of course, we have to play The Lost Child, but I have been UF Gizmo. Thank you all for joining me.
Yep, I've been Pete, so thank you very much for listening to our ramblings.
Yeah, I've been Chris or Massive Dance. If you want to find me on anything.
And we will see you in August. Well,
Yes.
later in August.
Yeah.
Maybe even September. Who knows?
Who knows anymore?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.